Atheists insist atheism is nothing more than a rejection of all metaphysical claims. We will leave aside the fact that the claim, metaphysical statements are invalid, is a metaphysical claim. Indeed, all abstract statements concern metaphysics. Indeed, even a generalization is a metaphysical statement. One cannot even hold a discussion about the nature of things without engaging in a metaphysical discussion. But we will not be so rigorous here. Yet, the absurdity of making a claim about the absence of evidence for God ought to be obvious. The opinion of an atheist is not the articulation of science. Atheists are not in a position to give science a voice. The idea that an atheist can articulate the views of science, as if it was a sentient being, has no empirical validity. It also ought to be obvious that one cannot simply reject the existence of God and be treated as a mature adult. Reality can manage without Yeti, aliens, Santa Claus, and other hypothetical beings. To equate God with things conceived of as physical beings is to misrepresent God. When we discuss God, we are not talking about your reality, we are talking about a different reality to the one you think you live in. We cannot dismiss God without similarly dismissing the reality which makes him necessary. The issue is not if God exists, it is if your reality has any credibility. Obviously, if we postulate an hypothetical impossibility, nothing real or possible will exist in it or be consistent with it. If your conception of reality is a hypothetical absurdity, you have rendered it impossible for anyone to prove God is a concept that is consistent with the hypothesized set of conditions. But so is everything that is real, inconsistent with your worldview. Therefore, it is one thing to prove God is not compatible with your worldview. It is another to prove your worldview is more than a lie. Any atheist can assert that my faith in God does not fit in with their faith that reality is composed solely of physical elements. It is true that there is not one claim about God or one event that is consistent with a universe composed of physical factors that points to God being the ruler of a physical world. No experiment using physical equipment that tests for physical phenomenon can substantiate any God claim. We accept all that. Logically, how could a non-physical being be proved to exist in a reality that is conceptual or informational? But let's ask this. Can we prove physical elements are possible in a logical reality? Let's put this another way. You are a writer, and you write a story. Does it cease to exist as a story if there is nothing in the story the five senses can corroborate? The existence of information has always been problematical for naturalists. But what is worse is that it is all information. We know nothing about reality that is not information. To even try and debate the point is a contradiction. To talk about God as if he was a player in your world that could be written out without changing the play in a substantial way is self-serving. One cannot dismiss God. He is not an idea of our making. Atheists think they can eliminate God without consequences. They cannot eliminate God. They can only eliminate an inconsequential abstraction. God is beyond mankind's ability to eliminate, dismiss, or reject. This is why when atheists reject God and declare him to be incompatible with their worldview, they shrink him to the size of Santa Claus. But this is not God. We can only eliminate God by eliminating truth. What we wish to talk about in this piece is morality and atheism. The error of atheists is the belief they can exculpate God without eliminating everything that belongs to God. This means when atheists reject God, they reject logic, morality, and truth. This might not be important, but it means God exists, and it would be better if people did not think they could gamble their souls that they can win a competition with God. Because this is what atheism is. Atheists are the universe's small child who thinks they can outmaneuver their parents. When it comes to parents, the child may win. God is not human, and he fixed things, so he never loses. He does not even come close to losing. Atheists will not agree with any of this. If they did, they would not be atheists. The argument which irks them the most is that atheists are not moral, though there seems to be much confusion as to what morality is. Morality in atheism seems to be aligned with what is good, with them being the standard for what is good. Atheists universally consider themselves good people. Most will, however, assert that atheism has nothing to do with morality. Atheism is simply the rejection of God. If this is true, there is no reason to assume the capacity for moral action would change by asserting God does not exist. Unfortunately for them, by making this argument they create the conditions for yet another proof of God. Indeed, atheists will often assert the very opposite to be the case. In the world of an atheist, it is Christians who are unable to be moral. They have a point, but not the one they promote. Atheists claim that Christians commit acts of terror and violence to further their agenda. This is true in their world. However, atheists see things in a dull light. A Christian does not promote Christianity as an institution, it is a faith based on the teachings of Jesus. We can blame people for acts they do, but whatever actions we wish to blame on Christianity as a faith must align with the teachings of Christ. Atheists point to events such as the Crusades as evidence that Christianity is immoral. This is not done as much as it was because many atheists have realized the threat Muslims represent. That being said, the last crusade was against the Waldenses in 1487 and they were a Protestant sect prior to the Protestant Reformation. After the Reformation and a greater acceptance of the right to freedom of conscience, religious wars declined. The Protestant doctrine of sola scriptura made proselytizing with the edge of the sword less acceptable. Once one has rejected God, however, moral relativity is all one has to guide one's actions. One may believe in good and evil but only as human constructs. The belief that men make gods becomes true when one rejects God. Mankind must step into the vacuum and deify himself. What does it mean to be moral in a morally relativistic universe? If good and evil are manufactured concepts, good and evil can be reversed. There is no objective frame of reference to let us know a reversal has occurred. In a relativist universe, Christianity can be evil and Islam good. We can actually see this reversal happen in the liberals' reaction to Islam. Yet, liberalism flowed from Christianity and Islam is diametrically opposed to everything liberals advocate. Many liberals embrace Islam in preference to Christianity, even suggesting it will be the new state religion, as appears to be happening in Germany. The very liberal government of Germany appears to be working towards a transformation of German culture into something more aligned with the ethics of Islamic. It is said that if one stands for nothing, one will fall for anything. Atheists contend they are good people. But according to which standard? Atheists may be no worse persons on average than anyone else. That does not make them good. Is it wise to use values and standards we have inculcated to guide our path to reform? Atheists often criticize Christians for cherry-picking the Bible, meaning they claim we follow parts and ignore other parts. This is probably true, but the argument misses the point. Our morality is based on a moral being, not on an ethical statement or set of ethical principles and doctrines. If we do not follow the Judaic law, as so many atheists think we ought, it is because Judaic law does not reflect the being of Christ. No law does. The problem for atheists is that they are legalists, and necessarily so. The issue for them is whose law ought they to follow. Mostly atheists are egoists, meaning they want to be the writers and enforcers of their own law. Atheists play the blame game when faced with problems. They take on the role of hero when experiencing success. But the life of a Christian is lived in reverse of this. For a Christian, when things go wrong, we look at the beam in our own eye. We do not look at the straw in the eye of others. When things go well, we praise the mercy of God and thank Jesus, we do not take credit ourselves. When things go wrong, we look at our own heart and think of what we ought to have done different. But the question is, what is good? What is truth? But we cannot ask these as non-presumptive questions. If we ask them, we must ask them from a particular context. This is an error we all make. The idea of an objective truth is a lie perpetuated as part of a demonic agenda. There is the truth of God and there are lies. The truth of God is not objective, it is logical and moral. Atheists claim there is an objective truth and they seek it, all the while proving there is no such thing, there is only their opinion and God. An objective truth requires an observer who can directly observe what cannot be anything other than what it is. There is nothing that is necessitated other than God, because nothing has the means to ensure its existence but God. Nor is there an observer capable of observing what necessarily exists other than God. By eliminating God from their purview, atheists narrow reality down to their own opinion. And because their opinion is of no greater value than the opinion of everyone else, the error of atheist is to reject God and leave themselves with nothing more than their opinion to believe in.